Hey, go. Welcome to the Double Dribble podcast with Dubin and Dakhil. That's Jared Dubin. You know him by now. Great author last night in basketball. Make sure you're following his newsletter. I'm Mo Dakhil, former NBA video coordinator, Clippers, Spurs, Team Australia, right for Bleacher Report, videos for Offside, all that fun stuff. Well, we're flying through these now. These intros, Jared. We're at the RealGM network. We're going to fly through these intros because everybody knows who the hell we are at this point. We're both wearing hats today, too. Nice. You wear a hat almost every day, though, but it's nonetheless.
I get to the hats when I have not had time to shave my head, which is quite often these days.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jared, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm ready to talk some basketball. We're going to talk about the Spurs, Wemby taking less on his contract. We're going to talk about the Warriors. We're going to talk about the big trades that have happened this offseason. I'm excited, man. It's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. And you started it off, man. So I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen over the past couple of weeks, that Wemby was going to decide to do kind of the Jalen Brunson route. Although don't think we've really seen this on a rookie deal.
Both Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams did not take the escalators on their contract for potential Rose Rule deals. But or actually, I think Jalen Williams might not have taken it. Chet Holmgren did not take it. He did the straight 25%. But basically, Wemby is not taking the Rose Rule escalator on his rookie contract extension, which means he's getting 25% of the salary cap as a first-year starting salary rather than up to 30% of the first-year starting salary.
And the goal is obviously to help the Spurs add talent to the roster and you know, kind of he wants to build a contender. He wants his team to continue to put talent around him. And obviously this is something we ended last podcast actually a little bit spicy with our little argument about the how we think the cap should work in terms of homegrown talent. And this is kind of the other option where like the player has to make the sacrifice. I know we'll talk about the players union side of it in a moment. We'll talk about we also should note we are talking about millions of dollars that like at the 25% of the cap is still, it's like 252 million at this point. Like it's not it's we're not talking like, oh wow, like he's broke now.
He's not going to be hurting for money.
No, not anytime soon. But like I mean, for the Spurs, this is also not the first time this has happened with the Spurs, right? Like Tim Duncan had done this historically with almost all his contracts, I think, except maybe his first max. But I think building the talent around them, and to give the Spurs credit, they went to Wemby going, these are all the options. We're prepared to give you the full max with the Rose Rule escalators and everything, which you know he's going to hit most likely if he's healthy. Like, you know, I feel like we're going to end up, you know, at one point renaming the Defensive Player of the Year award as the Wemby Award. But like, you know, this is a situation like the Spurs came in, they met him in Paris. I think it was the ownership, R.C. Buford, Brian Wright, and Mitch Johnson. And they loaded up there and sort of walked him through everything. And I think Wemby kind of was just from the beginning, I feel like he was always going to do this.
Yeah, I think Jake Fisher reported the morning of the extension that there was like word going around in Vegas that he might take less money on his contract extension. I thought that meant, you know, maybe he'll take 27.5%, 28%, something along those lines. Not getting the Rose Rule escalators at all is, I think, still pretty surprising. But like you said, the Spurs have a history of their stars doing this, not just Tim Duncan, but Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Like all of these guys would take a little bit less to give the Spurs more room to build out the rest of their roster. And obviously Wemby following in those guys' footsteps, he's still getting a maximum contract, just not as big of a maximum as he possibly could have gotten. Like, he's not taking a pay cut. He's just not taking as much as he possibly could have gotten.
Right. And it's along the lines of, this is the same sort of thing with Jalen Brunson. You know,
right. Except Brunson was actually taking the most he could have gotten at that time. He just could have gotten more if he had waited a year.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the the interesting stuff there. For the Spurs, it's cool, but the pressure's on though. You got to develop. You got to make sure you make good use of that, right? Like this was a gift given to you, but you can't fuck it up, right? It's. I think that's sort of an important aspect. I think that they need to make sure they understand, and I think they do as an organization, historically having done this type of stuff. I'm curious over the years how this will play out for them. Right. And like, what does this lead to talent wise? Who do they bring in? Where are they going to kind of, how are they going to load up as they get going? Because they do need to load up, right? Like, look, they went and got Tobias Harris 2 years, 31 million.
31 million.
Yeah. So, I think that's an important thing. I think, they need to make sure they find the right amount of the right pieces to build around Wemby. Obviously, the building blocks are Dylan Harper and Castle with him, but it's more than that. You have to put talent around those guys that will complement them.
Yeah, I think it's not coincidental at all that Tobias Harris contract runs through the remainder of Stephon Castle's rookie contract. So he's going to start his presumably rookie max extension at the same time that Tobias will come off the books. You got guys like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, whose contracts run to around the same time. Like all of these deals are going to be set up so that, Wemby is making his 25% max. At this point, I think we can say like Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper are on track for 25% maxes or potentially 30% maxes if those guys don't want to take discounts. And maybe they take even less than that because of the precedent that Wemby set at this point. We could talk about the precedent a little bit too, because the Players Union had something to say about that, but they're going to be paying 3 guys a very significant portion of the salary cap, and some of these other guys are going to cycle out. They've got to do a really good job, like you said, of filling in the margins around those 3 guys, because that's going to be the building block of the team for years to come, obviously.
And, again, homegrown talent would be helpful if the cap helped them out. Let's go into the Players Union side of the argument, though. I'm not going to let Jared. We don't need to rehash here. We know you stand on the wrong side of history. I think the cheap shots I'm taking. But the Players Union has come out and basically said, like, hey, it's not cool that Wemby has to sacrifice, in order for the team to kind of continue to build and be in a position to build a contender around him. And we've seen this across the board, right? Like this is the Celtics before the Jaylen Brown thing, right? Wiping away basically a championship team because we all knew it was going to be too expensive. It's we've seen a lot of teams sort of start to kind of figure out how are we going to make this work cap wise and things like that. And I think this is going to be an interesting it's an interesting fight to pick if you're the Union right now.
Yeah, I think that the combination of the second apron and the repeater tax is making these financial choices into ones that the teams are making the same decision every single time for the most part, and they're choosing to cut the money. Like the second apron is operating as a hard cap. Like that is just the way it is. I can't remember if it was Brian Windhorst or Tim McMahon or someone else who said that a league executive slipped up and referred to it as a hard cap to them at one point, which it absolutely is operating that way. And the Players Union came out and said the second apron is putting pressure on players to quote unquote sacrifice or have to sacrifice to make it so that their teams can build around them for the future. And all that does is save owners money. It doesn't do anything for the players. Like they should be able to benefit and get the largest contracts that they want. And their teams should still be able to build around them. The owners have the money. They should just spend it.
Yeah, the second apron's pretty awful. Like this is a hard.
Sorry, especially because they're about to get like checks of at least like $500 million from expansion. Like
and not to share with the players. That doesn't go to the players. Like that's not part of the BRI. That doesn't get split among the players. I think it becomes a situation where you start looking at it and you're just like, it's kind of ridiculous at this point, right? And I think this is part of why I feel like the homegrown talent thing should work its way into the cap in that regard. If they're just going to be, I think obviously in an ideal world, the owners wouldn't be cheapskates. Like I'll say this about it's a different sport. They don't have a cap, but the Dodgers, like everybody talks all this shit about how much the Dodgers spend, but like they don't talk about, they put all the money they make back into the team. Like they really do invest it back into the team, which is what allows them to build. A lot of baseball teams could do this, but their owners want to take the money.
Yeah,
Far
the
be it from
Yankees
me to
used
judge
to do
anybody.
that, and now they don't anymore, and it drives me nuts.
Right. So
they shouldn't
it's like,
even be allowed to be the Yankees anymore. Give the name the Yankees to the Dodgers. They're the Yankees now.
no, we're the Dodgers. Don't fucking put that evil on us, Ricky Bobby. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think the important thing though is when you're watching this stuff, it's like this is a problem that the league's gonna have to reckon with, is they've created a system. And part of the player, look, they agree to this at the end of the day, right? And sometimes it's hard in these negotiations. In these negotiations, it feels like the owners always come out on top. Right? Like the players they may get a few concessions, but they never really come away with an actual like, yes, this is the clear win. We're good. This collective bargaining agreement works for the players more than the teams. They'll never win in these arguments. And I think this hard cap is really just set up to make sure the owners are taken care of. Talent's dispersed around the league. Like it's funny. I'm going to be writing an article about big threes. Right. The problem is there really aren't any in the NBA anymore. Yeah, it's big duos. And, I hope my editors aren't listening to it. It's basically what I'm going to write is about big duos because there's not really a third guy like for a lot of these. We literally just saw Boston split up their duo. So it's not even like a thing. So this model of the second apron is kind of insane. And it's veered us a little bit off topic here, but it is interesting that the players union is picking the fight. I want to go back to the Spurs, unless you have anything else you want
to. On the last point, like the players get their 51% of BRI no matter what. So the amount of money the players as a whole get doesn't change based on this second apron stuff. It's just spread out in a different way so that you're going to have more bad contracts because the best guys aren't getting what they're worth. Because the guys at the lower end of the spectrum are going to get more. And that's great for them, but it also puts the same type of pressure on teams because they're going to say, oh, well, we have this guy, but now he's overpaid relative to what he's worth in the market. And now we got to break up the team again because we don't want to spend all of the money. Everything comes back to the owners don't want to spend the money to keep these teams together.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the way Denver operates. An ownership group that has a ton of money across several sports and just doesn't want to, at the end of the day, will not jump into it. Your team, Dolan, immediately going like, we're not going into the second apron. Now,
and now there's talk about like, oh, maybe Karl Anthony Towns will take less on his extension. Maybe Josh Hart will take less on his extension. Like the pressure shouldn't be on those guys to take less money than they can get. The pressure should be on the owners to spend the money to keep the team together.
This is going to sound a little bit bad, but we're asking players to take less money, but the billionaires can save money is basically what we're basically talking about at the end of the day. And that's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
With that.
And the best trick the owners ever pulled was getting people to side with them on that argument. Like, oh, the players should take less money and sacrifice so that they can win more. Like the owners should pay more so that they can win more. If they're going to be the guys that get to hold the trophy first in the trophy ceremony, they should be the ones sacrificing.
The players union next collective bargaining agreement needs to go full on like, this is what this owner's worth. This is how much, like they need to start like going like hard at
it's never gonna happen and it's never gonna work. The owners just have so much more money and can just wait them out.
Right. But what I'm saying is they need to win the public court of a public opinion. They need to turn that tide around where it's like, yo, like I get it. You always say players overpaid. Let me tell you who else is overpaid. A jump in it. Like that's how you need to they need to win that argument.
But for example, nobody knows who Josh and Stan Kroenke are. Nobody knows who Peter Holt is. Like, no, and that's like, that's just to use the Spurs example. Like general fans or casual fans don't know who those people are, but they know who Wemby is. They know who Jokic is. They know who like Cam Johnson is.
I'll tell you, I didn't know what Peter Holt looked like when I worked for the Spurs and was standing in his way in one of the meetings. And one of the coaches had to grab me and pull me out of his way because they were like, that's the owner, you idiot. So like, that's how like, okay, wild with that.
And
But I
Peter
want to go
Holt
back.
generally has been a great owner because he gets out of the way and lets the basketball people do their jobs.
Yeah, and he is actually a pretty great owner. It was fun to work. The organization takes care of his people, all that stuff. That was just I wasn't trying to take a shot at Mr. Holt. I do want to get back to the Spurs and talk about the basketball side because there's one other thing they did, and I find it very interesting. They lost Sean Sweeney to the Orlando Magic, and to replace him, they brought in Billy Donovan. I love the hire, but the funniest thing to me, Jared, about the hire and like the reaction to the hire from people was like everybody was like, "Oh, Mitch Johnson better watch his back." Are we really doing this? Are we really going to say Mitch Johnson's job's in trouble after his first run in the playoffs gets all the way to the finals? We're going to start talking about his job's in trouble.
I am not surprised that people are talking about it. I would be very surprised if the Spurs actually made a change like that.
They would never. That's not. I mean, it would have to be an epic disaster. It have to be Wemby going, "I hate this guy."
Right, and Mitch Johnson is like Wemby's guy.
Yeah, like this isn't. It's such an insane. The criticism was valid in the finals about him.
He didn't coach a good series in the finals, but you know what? That happens. Like the Spurs didn't play a good series in the finals either.
Right. You know who also didn't coach a good series in the finals all those years ago was Mike Brown. With Cleveland. Granted, they were severely outgunned, but like I think that is it's one of those things. This is his first run in the finals. First run in the playoffs. This is his first full season as a head coach where he had full control of the team. It's just funny to me that is the reaction of like, oh no, he better watch his back. They're going to fire. I go like, y'all got to stop, man. This shit's ridiculous when we start doing this with those guys. And also, I love the hire.
Oh, it's a great hire.
This is a team I think that needs a little more creativity offensively. I think Donovan brings a little bit more of that. They understand who they are defensively. So losing Sweeney hurts on the defensive end, but they know what they are at this point. But offensively, their identity is still really up in the air, especially in crunch time. I think that's an area where Billy Donovan can come in and help out massively.
Yeah, making it work with the three guards and Wemby, I think, is an area that he can definitely come in and make it where he's run a lot of different offensive systems during the course of his career. Like the offense that he ran in Oklahoma City when he had Durant and Westbrook was different than the offense he ran when he just had Westbrook, was different than the offense he ran when he had Westbrook and Paul George, was different than the offense that he ran when he was with Chicago and all the various iterations of the Bulls that he had.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think the onus on this hire was like, I think they were more focused on we need to get more of an offensive mind here to help Mitch along and so on. And by the way, this is a 1 or 2 year job for Billy Donovan. He'll go get a head job somewhere else. If not in the NBA, somebody's going to call him in college, and he'll go back to college if he really wants. Like, I'm not like this is the thing that's kind of insane to me with how we react to coaching. And it really pisses me off when we start immediately putting a dude in the hot seat in a way where it's like, that's just absurd. That's just absurd to me. And
I agree with you. I know it's more fun when we disagree, especially when we disagree as much as we did last week. But I agree with you for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's just kind of one of those things. So if you're one of those folks listening going like, no, man, he better watch his back. His days are numbered. His seat is heating up.
That's not how the Spurs operate. That's not how they operate.
I almost expect the Spurs to operate a little bit like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like Mitch Johnson could be their coach for the next 15 years. Like it wouldn't shock me at all. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be a situation. Maybe at one point things go bad and they let him go, but the way they want to operate, I think, is the next 15 years or so. Like this is our guy in the way that they had Pop, and I think that's kind of the way they themselves want to work through as an organization. So I think that's where it's going to be.
RC Buford too. Like it's the front office has not changed except that they promoted Brian Wright to general manager.
Right. And I think that's kind of where, like, I think people get this stuff wrong with all of that. Anything else you want to kind of talk about with the Spurs before we take our break?
No, we can head to the break.
All right, we're going to head right to the break, and when we come out, we're going to be talking Warriors. Welcome back, folks. We are here, happy, and let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, who look like, what was it, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, we were like, oh, they're getting LeBron. This is all done. I still think I still think it's in the running somewhere where all of a sudden, this is the top 3 teams and the Warriors aren't named. I still think LeBron's going to end up going with the Warriors. Part of me still thinks that's somehow in the mix. I saw something where Draymond Green's trying like hell to recruit LeBron and all of that stuff. But I want to talk about the Warriors just overall in general.
Is Draymond recruiting LeBron on his podcast? Like Bob Myers went on the podcast to try to recruit LeBron?
Yeah, I mean that's so weird. Don't get me started on that, Jared. Just don't. Like, I didn't really.
He is 100% announcing his destination on his podcast. Like, whenever it happens, it's happening on the podcast for sure.
It's going to be. I mean, this is all content for them, which is what they're going to do for the next 3 weeks. Like, I don't think this is getting done quickly. I don't care. I mean, I think this is going into. I told you in the beginning. I said
this is after the World Cup, which means next week at the earliest.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he carries it even a little further in terms of enjoying the festivities and stuff. But whatever. Okay, that's their prerogative. Sucks for everybody else. But I think the thing though for me with the Warriors is, what's the plan now? Right? Like you don't you don't get LeBron and I haven't watched a ton of summer league, but Yaxel has looked pretty good, and they're pretty excited about him to a degree. And I think, I don't know if that means, okay, cool, we're going to contend. But like, what's the plan with this team? It's Steph, it's Draymond. Jimmy's out all year. Like, it's really kind of, Porzingis, Horford, like. It's just like, I'm just like, okay, you're going to compete in the West with that?
Well, no, they're not going to compete with the West. I don't think they would be really competing in the West if they got LeBron either. They would be more fun, and even more fun, I guess, if they also traded, Jimmy and draft picks for Anthony Davis, just because of the whole, expendables thing. And maybe they're still going to do that. Who the hell knows? But I don't think they're coming close to competing in the West. I think they're a play-in team at the best, even if Yaxel turns into like the best version of what you could expect from him, which is probably like a 4th or 5th starter type. Like, the guy is 24 years old already. He's probably not getting that much better. I know he was a late starter and has gotten better throughout his college career, but the idea that there's a ton of room for development is probably not the case, just because that doesn't tend to be the case for significantly older prospects like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's room for them to compete in the West. Even if Draymond comes back and, let's say, takes less money after he opted out of his contract, it's not like they have a ton of room to go sign somebody. They got the mid-level exception. That's it. But who are they going to use it on at this point other than LeBron?
Jonathan Kuminga? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think, that's kind of like they're in such a difficult position. And this goes back to, listen, they got the draft picks wrong for the most part. Like, missed out on a bunch of guys, struck out on a bunch of guys. It hasn't worked.
3 top 10 picks and wound up with James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody, and none of them turned into stars.
Right, and I think that's kind of been there.
And Moody's out for a bunch of this year too.
Yeah, and he's going to miss a lot of time. So it's pretty brutal that they didn't sort of knock this out of at least hit on one of them. But like, for them to not hit on any of them is pretty brutal. And that's kind of like, it's just going to be a sad end to Steph's like run with the Warriors. Like, I don't know how they actually kind of move forward from this team. And like, this is a level of like mismanagement over the years where they
I don't know that it's mismanagement necessarily. They just missed on a few draft picks. Like,
yeah, but honestly,
mismanaged everything.
I'll be honest with you, they haven't developed a player in a long time. Like, like you can point to Podemski, sure, but that's a role player at the very best at the end of
Yeah,
the
and
day,
Moody's
right?
turned into a solid role player too,
Yeah, and Moody,
but it's
but
still a
like,
role player.
and this is something even goes back to their championship run. Like, they just never developed guys. Like,
Well,
we
Kevon
can go,
Looney turned into a solid starting center.
yeah, but after that, like, okay, so all right, well then what happened to the Jordan Bell was supposed to be a guy.
Yeah.
Now, and some of this isn't their fault. Some of it is the player's fault,
It's
right? The
still like
guys.
Jordan Bell's a second round pick. Like everybody liked him and thought that he was going to be a pretty good player, but it's still a second round pick at the end of the day. You don't expect those guys to turn into good players. Like it's a nice surprise if they turn into good players.
But then it was like, and some of these are second round picks, but that's what you're picking when you're a championship team. But it's the
Yeah.
Patrick McCaws. It's who is the other guy? There was another name I forget. But I mean, like the
Patrick
Jordan Baldwin, like there's all that. But like Jordan Poole was probably the only guy they really developed, and then we saw how that turned out. But it's like I think like there's a level of like they didn't really create a development program. Like their whole thought was like we're going to be the next version of the Spurs, and they were for a little bit with their team, but they never found the influx of talent, and then fucking up the draft picks really kind of killed them at the end. Like and some of it's bad luck. The Jimmy injury is bad luck. Even Moody getting hurt is bad luck. Like the Anthony Melton over and over again getting hurt for them, whereas it looks like he could be a guy that could have really helped them. It's just shitty luck with a lot of that stuff. And I don't feel like they just haven't put themselves in the right position since then. And now it's kind of sad. Like, because we know they're going to get a shit ton of national TV games because it's Steph. But like he misses the game. It's like, God damn, man, that's going to be a tough watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a tough watch without Steph. But obviously, it's a little bit different now. Like they don't have Klay Thompson to lean on or Kevin Durant to lean on, and Draymond is a diminished version of himself because the only guys that have shown that they can really stave off the aging curve are the guys like Steph and KD and LeBron and James Harden and those type of guys that can still play at an extraordinarily high level deep into their mid 30s and beyond. Draymond is not the same. Like he's still a marvelous defensive player, but obviously not at the same level that he was during the peak of his powers. And offensively, he's regressed significantly. So you don't have Steph out there and things change dramatically.
Yeah, it just gets rough, man. Like I feel like it's a little like, damn, man, like I'm not really. It would have been fun at least if they got LeBron, because like you said, it would have been at least exciting to watch and seeing the Expendables kind of come to life from the big screen to this. And it would have been an interesting sort of thing. I feel I'm saddened by the Warriors. They did just announce Frank Vogel's joining the staff, as the lead assistant, kind of taking over the Terry Stotts position for Steve Kerr. Like, okay, great. But like, and I like Vogel as a coach. Team still ain't going to do anything.
It should help them defensively, at least. Vogel's always been one of the better defensive coaches in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, I think also that comes down to like your talent defensively, right? And I think we'll see how it plays out. Yaxel has to be amazing, really out of the gate. And in the Western Conference, I think this was a team that I think they put all their eggs in the LeBron basket. And if they don't get him, and if I'm wrong with my quiet, like they're just fucking with everybody and are just going to go sign with the Warriors and don't turn Jimmy Butler and draft picks into Anthony Davis. Like, I just don't see what this team is.
There's not much else they can do other than sign. It's not like anybody is really left on the market for them to go after if he's not going to go there. And I doubt that they're going to trade Jimmy for AD if LeBron is not going there. So then you're talking about banking on Jimmy coming back after, a significant injury being something that lifts them in the second half of the season. And the idea that he's going to be full strength coming back from that injury right away, or even within a couple of months. I know that other guys have been able to do it, but they're also not guys deep into their 30s who have been not the most durable guys in the world anyway throughout the rest of their careers. Like the idea that that's going to be a situation where he just comes back full strength right away and is able to lift them out of the middle of the pack in the Western Conference, I just don't think passes the smell test to me.
The other thing for me too is like I don't know if they're really planning their future.
Right? No, they're not.
Like
they're planning for the last few years of Steph's career. Which
and not in a good way though.
Future? Like, no, you should be planning for the last few years of Steph's career, I think.
I think you should be trying to keep an eye on what you're going to do for the future, what you're going to do after your post-Steph world. Like, I think you need to have that kind of, you need to have some sort of plan with what you're trying to do and how you're trying to build this up afterwards. Cause it's like, you can't be like Milwaukee when Steph leaves, and I'm talking retirement, but like you can't, and then be lost in the wilderness for 10 years. Like
they were lost in the wilderness for a whole lot longer than that.
Well, Steph that's my point though, right? You can't go back to that.
Yeah.
You have this whole gym now at the Chase Center. You spent a shit ton of money for the move to San Francisco. You can't be willing to just be like, cool, we're going to be shitty for 4 years. And you can't bank on them drafting properly because we just outlined how poorly they did in the draft over the past few years. So it's kind of a scary thing for me with the Warriors and seeing how they go forward. You have any other final thoughts here with the Warriors?
No, I mean, there are no future building blocks for the post-Steph world, like you said. That's a scary thing, obviously, but it's not like there won't be chances to acquire them over the next few years, because it doesn't look like Steph is, running out of gas anytime soon. He's probably still going to be really good for at least the next few years. And we know, based on his skill set, even if he's not the same in terms of like running around away from the ball and being like the hardest guy in the league to chase, just from standstill shooting, he can be a useful player, like probably into his 40s if he wants to.
Forever. It's whether he'll handle that, how he'll handle that, or want to be that is a different question. All right, let's take a quick break and then come back and let's talk about the trades that we've had and all the friends we've made along the way, Jared. And we are back, folks. So free agency was pretty shitty, and I think that's kind of, again, part of the cap, and that's, it's boring at this point. Even to the point where I just pick a spot, LeBron, and just let us go on with our lives.
You know what? One free agency thing before we get into the trades. Congratulations to Gary Trent for the most prearranged contracts in the history of American professional basketball. He signed with the Bucks for the minimum last year and gets 4 years, $64 million after having the worst year of his career. Congratulations to him. And, this was the one time where the agents referenced in Shams' tweet about the deal, like, yes, absolutely. Mention the agents in that tweet because they deserve it.
I saw that come across, and that was one of those where I was like, nah, that's a typo. He meant to put 6.4 or something. Like that was like
I saw it in a Slack message before I saw it on Twitter, and someone was talking about Gary Trent getting $16 million, and I thought it was $16 million total, not $16 million a year.
It's funny because I think Amin El Hassan had that experience with the Lakers when they signed. I think it was like Luol Deng or something like that, or somebody, and then finding out it was the per year and not the total. He has a great story from that. I think it was 2016, that summer of 2016 when everybody
Luol Deng, Timofey Mozgov, like the contracts that were signed in the 2016 offseason are some of the great stories in the history of professional basketball.
I don't say this very often, but that might need to be a 30 for 30. The summer of 2016 in the NBA.
Like, the summer of 2016, absolutely. I mean, KD goes to the Warriors that summer. Just that alone justifies a 30 for 30.
Yeah, but just the contracts give it out. Like, we need to just kind of have that whole run. But folks, because free agency
I thought, by the way, at first you were talking about the Gary Trent contract might need to be a 30 for 30, which I think it might need to be investigated for cap circumvention.
No,
clearly this was arranged last summer.
I promise you, Pablo Torre's ears perked up when he heard what this deal was. we'll see what happens with all of that. But in lieu of all the signings, we've had a bunch of trades. It's been a pretty busy trade offseason. Obviously, the Giannis trade, the Brown trade, Kessler trade. What else am I missing? Because there's
the LaMelo Ball trade,
LaMelo Ball, like
John Morant trade, Kawhi Leonard trade.
Hold on. Let's go into the Kawhi trade for a second, because I also brought up Pablo and I've kind of forgot that part. What the fuck? Now the trade's on hold because, I feel like it's on Toronto's end, because Toronto finds out that, hey, like, if there's a penalty for Kawhi, you guys are going to pay the price for it. There's nothing beyond that. And and you correct me if I'm wrong, but the reporting I have is that they knew this before they executed the trade and then now got some cold feet. Is that correct?
Reporting from various people has indicated that the Raptors knew they were going to be on the hook for any potential penalties before the trade was consummated, or I guess it hasn't actually been consummated yet. But I don't know about the cold feet part. Maybe they got some information that things are not going to go well for them or for Kawhi in the investigation. I can't imagine his contract is getting voided, but maybe he gets a suspension or something along those lines.
I think he gets a heavy suspension. I think it's wild to void the contract. I really think,
and because the players' union would go absolutely apeshit.
That's what I'm saying. Now you're in a full. They're going to fight the suspension, but you try to void the contract, they're going to go like, crusade style on you. Like, this is going to be quite a battle at that point, and I don't think the NBA really wants to have that kind of fight. Also, we do need to discuss this. I haven't cared that much, but this is the longest running investigation.
It's ridiculous. It's 10 months.
At this point, he either did something or you have what you need at this point. Like, that we need the answers and get this going, because we just need to be able to if you're the Raptors, you need to continue on with your free agents. Whether you get him or not, you need to figure out the Clippers as well. Like, the Clippers, cool. Like, what are we doing here? Can we flip Brandon Ingram and a pick for something else? Like, there's so many different little pieces that it's kind of insane to me that the NBA had let this go on for as long as it did. Listen, we all thought post All-Star, because the game was in the Intuit Dome and the Clippers were hosting it, kind of understood that. But they needed to have had the answer by then. And, Locktel Whitman, is that, and Katz?
Walktel Lipton.
Walktel. Lipton and Katz. Like, congratulations on the billing department, but, like, speed this up, man. Like, we got shit to do, folks. Like, we can't have that. So let's leave
the billable hours must be absolutely insane. But I think the big thing actually is, like, you don't want to lay down a punishment or lack of a punishment, and then the next week Pablo comes out with another podcast about people you didn't talk to. Like, that's the big fear, I think, for the NBA. But
and I'll be
the idea that it's taking this long to talk to everybody involved, I mean, it's just crazy. It looks so horrible for the NBA. It looks horrible for the Raptors that this thing is now held up. Like, I don't know. Like, the idea that this isn't finished yet after 10 months is just crazy.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just, let's go. Whatever the result is, let's just move on and get this going. Let's put the Kawhi trade to the side of the trades we're going to talk about.
Oh, I think we should include it in there too. If we're talking about the conversation that we're going to have, where, like, which of these trades is going to affect the championship picture the most, like, I think that trade has to be included.
All right, well then let's keep it in there then, because I think that is the one. I just don't know if it's going to happen, but that is the one that I think it will, but I don't have a guarantee. That is the one that has the biggest effect on the championship odds. Right?
I would say so. Agree. Like, to me, it's number one.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. And part of that also is just because, kind of like, again, it's the Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference, and where you rank the trades. where you think in terms of having it an effect on the championship?
So I would go the Ja Morant trade last, just because the Blazers are
they
not
weren't
really
in the
in a
running.
position
Yeah.
to affect the championship picture. Like they're probably a play-in team. And then the other trades we're talking about Walker Kessler, LaMelo Ball, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jaylen Brown, and Kawhi Leonard is the other five.
Yeah.
It feels crazy to say, but I feel like Giannis might be last out of that group, just because
it's not crazy to say. They don't have anything.
There's just not enough room for the Heat to build out a team that's going to be a true championship contender.
No, to me, that's not a crazy thing to say. I think that's a factual thing to say. I think that's the right view of it.
Or you know what? I'm going to go the Walker Kessler trade last out of that group.
I disagree. This is good for the show.
Let's hear the argument for it. Go ahead.
This is the exact type of fucking team that Luka took to the championship in Dallas.
Granted, it was like there's not as good defenders here. And it's not like Walker Kessler is like totally proven.
No. If he hits to being 80 to 85% of what people thinks, good rim protector, unbelievable rebounder. He's going to be a great rolling partner with Luka. It's going to work out in that regard. I think they have more talent on that team than Miami does. You have a second running mate with Austin Reeves. You don't have and in this way a little bit, it hurt them that they lost LeBron, but also you don't have that like, why isn't LeBron more involved sort of question always hanging over your head on top of everything. I feel like they're a better position with where they're now. Granted, they're locked into this team, and I think that's really the major criticism. I think this team is way better than people think. I think Colin Sexton defense is going to be a problem. I'll concede that, but I think they have way more offensive firepower than they've had in a long time. I think
they should be a top 5 offense. Like if Luka is healthy, they should be a top 5 offense.
With Luka and Reeves playing off of each other, Sexton coming off the bench. You got Mamu probably playing as the stretch 4 to start the games, and then he goes slide down to the 5. It's like I think they're when Walker needs to rest. Like I think there's an actual team here that can be feisty and tougher. Now, if they can just get a little bit of defense from these guys, I think it'll go a long way. Now, for me, I think they're higher up than last. They're definitely above Miami to me. And I think they're kind of in the realm of Minnesota. We both agree. Ja to Portland, dead last. For me, I have Miami after that. So
let me ask you this. How much does the Eastern Conference versus Western Conference affect this picture? Because the idea that the Lakers are going to compete with the Thunder and the Spurs, I feel like is kind of out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think so, but because of just their problems defensively. But I think that's everybody. So then everybody in the West should be at the bottom of the list. Right? Like every trade in the West should be at the bottom because you're not going to compete with the thing with OKC. Like, all right, let's see what Jalen Williams' health looks like. Right? Let's see how that matters for that stuff. The Spurs coming off one great playoff run doesn't necessarily mean they automatically have another great playoff run the next year. Right? And I think that's one of those things we always kind of jump to, like, these are the two teams and that's it. Every year we've been surprised in the playoffs and the finals. Every year. So this is the type of Laker team and the type of Luka team that can surprise you. And that's what I think they're higher up than people are giving them credit for. Because I'm kind of surprised. I think everybody's too locked in, and this is their roster. This is the team they're locked in for the next 4 years. Everybody's shocked at the price they paid for Kessler Walker, or Walker Kessler. Sorry, I always do that. They shocked at the sticker price, which is very high. They overpaid for him in what they gave up and what they're paying him. But I don't think they're looking at what it looks like on the court enough. And I think this is actually a competent and like you said, possible top 5 offense on the floor. And I think that goes a long way for them. And I think that's going to make a big difference for them. I think they're higher up than people are giving them credit for. Giannis to Miami, great. The Eastern Conference is tougher than people are going to give them credit for. Right? If the Toronto trade goes through.
It just doesn't have a Thunder or Spurs style team is the only thing. But there are more very good teams, I would say.
Like, I think it's more likely Miami's in the play-in than the Lakers.
Probably just because the East is deeper.
So I think that's kind of where I look at it, where that's where they're at. And I think that's something that's going to be concerning for Miami to have to figure out. But for me, I have Miami after that. You have the Lakers. Where do you have after the Lakers?
So I would have Miami next.
Okay.
And then I think the interesting thing about the top 3 trades is that they're all significantly affected by injury issues. Like it's not Jaylen Brown's injury issue, but the injury issue in Philly is Joel Embiid. Like,
right.
Does it matter that much for the championship picture if the Sixers aren't going to have Embiid make it through the postseason healthy? Does it matter that much for the Timberwolves if we can't count on LaMelo Ball to make it through the season because he's done it twice in 6 years? Does it matter for the Raptors if we can't count on Kawhi Leonard to make it through the season healthy or to make it through the playoffs healthy? When was the last time he made it through the playoffs healthy? When was the last time he won more than one playoff series? When was the last time he won a playoff series? All of these trades are significantly affected by injury issues. I think that number 1 on the list would probably be the Raptors just because they come out with the single best team from the 3 trades. But you can make an argument for the other ones just because of everything surrounding the Kawhi situation and what they might look like if and when he's not on the floor, because that's a team that really, really needs him to be out there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing with that. For me, after the Miami, I actually have it being Minnesota.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably right.
Or do you? I have the Lakers higher than Minnesota. I know you don't. So I think there's
okay.
So like when we're going through my list, it's Ja to Portland, Giannis to Miami, and then I'm going LaMelo to Minnesota because I like by the way, I like the trades. Like, don't get me wrong with these ones, except the Portland one. I just thought it was kind of silly, but they gave up nothing for him, so everybody's happy with it. But I think the concern for me with LaMelo beyond the injury is like, cool, can we do enough? I mean, it comes back also to defense on that end. Can you reel in LaMelo Ball offensively to play more of a second fiddle role when he's gotten to be what he's been for the past 6 years in Charlotte? Mm-hmm. When he has played. Like, that's where I'm really kind of curious about it. I might be low on Minnesota, but I think that's where I'm at with them.
And if you do reel him in offensively, so he's more of a second fiddle to Anthony Edwards, which obviously he should be, but does he have the same kind of supercharging effect on offense that he's had throughout his career? Like the Hornets have been much better offensively throughout his career with LaMelo on the court than off the court. He's had this significant effect on his teammates, shot quality and shot conversion rate whenever he's been on the court throughout his career. If he doesn't have the ball all the time, is that going to be the same in Minnesota as it's been in Charlotte?
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm kind of like a little bit not sure about that. After that trade, I'll just tell you now, I have the Lakers second.
So you have the Lakers ahead of the Sixers also.
Because I still think because I still think with I like the Jaylen Brown move, but they just don't have much after that. Like, it's the Embiid question mark is too big. Right. And it's like, I hate doing injury stuff and this, but we've had it for too long with Embiid with that, unless they're able to turn that around. But then they don't have any real backup bigs behind him. Like, I think
you don't like the Bona Ariel Cordy combination.
Where did Bona go to college?
That's true. He went to UCLA.
Stupid college. I think it's but I don't think it's, I mean, in the East, it's not going to be enough, right? Like, so You can't count on Embiid for 4 playoff series. Even if he has a relatively healthy season for him and plays 60-something games, you saw the playoffs, man. Like, this shit's hard. And when it gets to every other day, you can't count on him in that regard. Like, I know Walker Kessler only played 5 games last season, but I'm willing to bet more on his health than I am Embiid's. And I think that's why I look at it like, I think that's where the Lakers, like, I think there's a legitimate chance the Lakers can finish 4th in the West. I think there's a legitimate chance, depending on what Denver does, they can finish 3rd. Like, I think they're right in that mix. And that's why, so I have Philly. I like the idea of Maxey, Brown, and Edgecombe. But you still have to figure that offense out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that team has to figure out its identity. Like, what I would say with the Lakers, identity is all locked up. They know what they are offensively at the very least. Now they got to figure out what they are defensively. But Philly,
that's a not insignificant problem, though, especially given their personnel.
Of course, it's both sides of the ball, right, to win in this league. But I think at least Philly has to figure out who they are on both ends, because they don't have size. After Embiid, and they will have games, they'll have nights where Embiid's out. All right, so it's Huck Porty and Bona time. Okay, like, it's not an easy answer for them, and each night every few games it's going to be a different team out there, and I think that's a hard thing to cycle through.
I think that you're convincing me that the Lakers should be higher on the list, but then I just come back to, I can't see them beating the Thunder or the Spurs.
Yeah, but that's like such a hard fucking bar. Like, it's like when people.
It is, but the conversation we're having is like, what's going to affect the championship picture the most? And that's the bar you need to clear in the Western Conference.
I think the Lakers are more likely to pull off an upset in the playoffs than any of the other teams we've talked about, except Toronto if they have a healthy Kawhi. I don't think let me put it this way: Toronto winning stuff wouldn't be an upset. But, like, I think the Lakers are better equipped in the West. Think about it with Minnesota. They got to figure out who they are offensively now. Ant has to figure out how it's going to work with LaMelo. I think it's going to be good that he's going to be able to work a little more off ball and have a good passer with him in terms of LaMelo and things like that. But they still got to figure that shit out. I still think there's a lot more stuff there. I just think the Lakers have less to work on. It's a big problem, but they get to just focus entirely on defense because they know what the offense is.
They do know what the offense is. I don't know what the defense is, and I don't know how you improve it because the personnel is just between Luka Reeves and Mamu playing significant minutes. There's just not going to, like, I don't know how you build a good defense that way. Like, Walker Kessler's a pretty good rim protector. He's a very good rim protector, but you're depending so much on him and then on Quentin Grimes, who has to, like, you need Grimes to defend the point of attack because you don't have any other point of attack defenders, but you also need him to guard big wings because you don't have any big wing defenders, and he's not a great big wing defender because he's only like 6'4".
Yeah, I mean, it's no question their defense is going to have a challenge, but I still think at the end of the day, they have a better chance than, like, Minnesota. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in 3 months into the season, I'm looking at going like, wow, remember that podcast? How dumb was I back in July? But I still think, like, this is I still think there's more to it with that. Like, we've seen Luka take a team like this, similar to this. And even then with what they had defensively, listen, everybody shitted on the PJ Washington trade. Not everybody, I should say, but I definitely was on. I know for sure people were, because I was on with Enemy of the Podcast.
I didn't like the PJ Washington trade or the Gafford trade. I thought they gave up too much in both deals.
And then, wow, they go to the finals, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff where you look at it going like, maybe I'm not saying they go to the finals, right? And that's why I don't have them won. But I think they have a better chance than the other teams because they have less to figure out. And granted, it's a big problem they got to figure out, but I feel like the other teams have to figure out so much more. Philly is a different team each night.
Yeah. I think Minnesota probably has a higher ceiling than the Lakers just because there's the possibility that the Wolves could be in the top 10 on both sides of the ball. I don't think there's a possibility that the Lakers could be in the top 10 on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think they're going to have a top 10 defense. But if they can be just average defensively, which would be big win for them, and have a top 3 offense, it's pretty damn good too, right? And that puts them in a lot of positions with where they're at. I just think people are sleeping on this team more because we're focusing so much on what they can't do.
Yeah.
And we do this with players, we do this with teams all the time, but we don't look at like, what are they? What can they do? And where will they hurt teams? Because, that's going to be a thing. I think they're going to cause a lot more problems than people are giving them credit for. I might be an idiot. I might be dumb. We might look back at it and say, wow, you're an idiot. And that's fine. But like, I just look at it now going like, there's still more to them than I think people are giving them credit.
There might be. Certainly possible.
So who's your final rankings? Let's just give me your run.
6, the Ja Morant trade. 5, I will go, I guess, the Giannis trade just because the Heat just don't have really enough there.
Does it change? Does it change if LeBron ends up in Miami?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they go up a notch or two. Yeah. Okay, but assuming he doesn't go to Miami, because I still think he's going to Golden State somehow.
4, I guess I would put actually the Jaylen Brown trade just because you can't trust Embiid on any level to stay healthy. 3, I'll go the Lakers. 2, I'll go the Wolves. And 1, I'll go the Kawhi trade.
Just flip Lakers and Wolves for me. And that's where I'm at with that. With that going. That was a fun little. Hey man, we've had 2 podcasts in a row where we've started going back and forth. It took us a year. We found disagreements.
You convinced me on this one though. I ended up moving the Lakers up. I had them last and I moved them up to 3rd.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm good at arguing. This is what I do all day. I have been primed by yelling at customer service for the past 3 weeks of different.
I'm a lawyer.
Companies.
I should be the one convincing you.
No, I just missed my calling as a lawyer because I'm not a good student. I wasn't going to go to school that long. There was no chance.
I wasn't a good student either. I was one of those really annoying students in high school and college who never studied and got like B pluses and A minuses. Then I got to law school and I had to figure out how to study, and it was a very rude awakening.
Yeah, it's tough. That's not easy. Anything else you want to run with? I'm going to just check the interwebs and make sure there's no breaking news. I'm sure there will be one 2 hours after we post.
Yeah, just LeBron. Do this. Let's do that. Let's get this done already.
Make me look smart, LeBron, and go to the Golden State, because then we could run the clip over and over again for the past week where I'm like, I know he's saying these are the top 3s, but I still believe this. All right, folks. I think that's it. Thank you so much, Jared, and everybody else. Thank you for listening to the Double Dribble Podcast.
See y'all.